Shout out to our sponsor, Indochino.
Indochino provides made-to-measure premium suits.
And you can get 50% off your new threads with free shipping when you visit Indochino.com and use promo code KNOW, K-N-O-W. Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm John Reisinger.
Now, whether you love Suicide Squad, you guy, you do you, or you hated it, everyone else, we can pretty much all agree that it had problems. Like the fact that the script was written in 6 weeks, for example, or a rush deadline and multiple edits and reshoots.
Yeah, but according to its director, David Ayer, what the film really needed was more Joker.
What? No.
Yep.
No one thinks this.
Yep.
So recently, well, besides Ayer apparently, Ayer said he wishes he had a time machine so he could go back and make the Joker the movie's main bad guy, which really, that sounds like a solution that nobody asked for, unless what the movie needed was more dead pigs and used condoms to be sent to its cast.
Okay, but first let's back up a bit to how this all got started. Suicide Squad was one of the most...
We need a time machine.
So Suicide Squad was the most controversial movie, one of the most controversial movies of 2016, and that's not even counting the fact that it starred a bunch of crazy villains as its anti-heroes.
That was its selling point.
Yeah.
The movie was announced in 2014 as part of 10 DC films stretching into 2020. At that point, DC was in full-on catch-up mode to Marvel, which was making bazillions of dollars rolling out its own cinematic universe. And DC, they were eager to get their own team-up movies going after a rebooted Superman finally seemed to get traction with Man of Steel in 2013.
But Suicide Squad reportedly suffered from identity issues, with nobody being sure what kind of movie it ultimately would be.
Is it dark and gritty? Is it just a straight-up shoot-'em-up action film? Is it supposed to be cheeky funny?
They decided it was going to be a bad movie.
Yeah, well...
For one thing, there was a major deadline crunch. The studio felt like there was enough time for Suicide Squad to hit theaters in 2016, but according to the Hollywood Reporter, it was rushed from the start. And it was supposed to be a big tentpole movie, which would help usher in the DC universe. So obviously there was a lot of pressure to make it work.
Really, I think all the work ended up going to Harley Quinn to make the tentpoles.
Just her costume.
Meanwhile, Ayer, the director, had never made a big comic book movie, which presents its own problems, considering they are big, expensive, and loaded with special effects. Directing a big action blockbuster, well, it's like steering a battleship, which I've done many times, with a bunch of people in suits looking over your shoulder the whole time.
If only other directors hadn't been able to accomplish it who had never done comic book movies before. Jon Favreau.
Well, just
Then Batman v Superman dropped, and Kenneth Branagh, and the lukewarm response it got from audiences and critics scared the shit out of Warner Brothers, while Batman v Superman went on to be a big hit financially. There's a lot of fear that all the negative feedback had damaged the brand.
So, Suicide Squad needed to right that ship. At that point, Warner execs got worried that Ayer's version was going to be too dark, too somber, too serious, the same thing that had hurt Batman v Superman. Multiple editors were brought in to cut a lighter version of the movie, which is ironic considering the movie's name is Suicide Squad. Kind of lowers the stakes, doesn't it?
Yeah. So anyway, a finished product eventually made it to the theaters, and like Batman vs. Superman, it was controversial, with lots of critics and fans panning it. Tonally, Suicide Squad was all over the place, resulting in what some critics called a disjointed movie that had some bright spots, but was overall kind of a mess.
That's kind of being kind. But also, like Batman v Superman, it made a ton of money, more than $745 million on a $175 million budget. Honestly, if they could have broke 300,000, I think, or 300 million, I think they would have been even. So 745, amazing.
So all's well that ends well, right?
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. It's clear that the movie is still a sensitive subject for Ayers all these months later.
Yes. Recently, a fan on Twitter thanked Ayer for making the movie and called it a masterpiece, which is very nice.
Yep. Ayer's response to the praise was pretty revealing as to what he thought of the movie and what he wished he could do differently.
Ayer replied that he knows Suicide Squad is a controversial film, but said that he tried to do something different and give it a look of its own, which I think he succeeded with. It looked very distinct. In fact, the trailers and the style of it all was very unique and was one of the things that made me want to go watch it.
Yep. Like every different pile of poo is unique. Ayer said, I took inspiration from the insanity of the original comics. He also said, and I know Squad has its flaws. Hell, the world knows it. Nothing hurts more than to pick up a newspaper and see a couple years of your blood, sweat, and tears ripped to shreds.
Sorry about that. That does sound pretty painful.
Yeah.
But he revealed a lot there. That he knew the movie had issues, and also that David Ayer still reads newspapers.
Good guy. Ayer went on to talk about the biggest regrets of the movie, the biggest of which he said that he'd make Joker the main villain and engineer a more grounded story.
I have to give the characters the stories and the plots they deserve next time. Real talk. And no, there isn't a secret edit of the film with a bunch of Joker scenes hidden in a salt mine somewhere, he said in the tweet.
Well, that definitely would have made for a different movie, but would that have necessarily made for a better movie?
Well, let's be honest. The Joker in Suicide Squad was pretty controversial himself.
That's the word of the day. Controversial.
Yes, Jared Leto's performance was so over the top that it got knocked by some critics as a glorified cosplay rather than an iconic take on the character like Heath Ledger's was. That was the basis for comparison all along. Not great when you're going from something that's like dark and gritty and like psychologically troubled to a dude with a grill and a question and yeah. So we're like wrong. Given that take on the Joker, not sure if more Joker would be a good thing.
Still, at the end of the day, the DC Universe will roll on and Suicide Squad will live forever as being a big, insane mess. Still, we know there will be a sequel with Ayer, Will Smith, and others reportedly returning, and based on his comments, maybe a lot more Jared Leto?
I don't know. He said he was tricked into doing it the first time. There may not be a secret cut, but there's a lot of cut footage, I'm sure.
Yep.
What did you guys think of Suicide Squad? Do you think Joker... Well, I mean, I say that, but we kind of know what the majority sentiment on that was.
Yeah.
But would more Joker have fixed it? Let us know what you think of that in the comments.
Yeah, and for all your movie and DC Cinematic Universe news, be sure to like this video and subscribe to The Know.
And in John's case in particular, an awful lot of salt.
I'm so salty.
Thanks to Indochino for sponsoring this update.
Indochino provides custom, made-to-measure premium suits that will have you looking perfectly dapper for years.
And you can definitely tell if it's a custom suit, not one of those off-the-rack numbers, right? You can choose from hundreds of fabrics, customize everything from lapels to pleats to jacket lining and more. Just enter your measurements and voila! 4 weeks later, your swish new suit will arrive ready to fit you better than any off-the-rack number ever will.
Get a new suit with free shipping for $389. That's 50% off. Just visit Indochino.com and use promo code KNOW at checkout.